Yeah, so I only have, we're recording, and we'll jump back on, but I can only record in like 30-minute chunks.
Okay.
So that's what's going on. So anyways.
All right.
All right. So you're talking about a circle though from Paul Tripp.
Yeah. Okay. So it's called God's Circle of Safety.
Okay.
So based on Ephesians 6:1-3, you put honoring your parents in the middle of the circle, and you put an X inside, and you say good things happen when you're inside this circle, and you put an X on the outside. Bad things happen when you're outside of the circle, and I put a crossbones. That was my idea.
That's original.
Anyway, so he was saying that when you live according to design, good things happen. So God has established this authority of structure. It was his idea. He's telling children, obey your parents. And so when you step out of that, then there's danger. So anyway, I put a circle on the ground with some yarn. And so we practice, I go, jump inside the circle, safety, safety, and they yell, safety, 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 and they jump out. I go, get outside the circle, danger, 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 inside the circle, safety, safety, safety. Okay, and so, and
nice.
It was great. It's a little practical, visual thing that they get and understand. And so when you live according to design, so let's say you've got a speedboat, you're not going to put a speedboat on a railroad track. It's not good. You're not operating according to design, right? Or you're not going to put a train on a freeway. It's not operating like it's designed. But when you put it together, you put a train on a train track, now you're operating as it was designed to operate, and good things work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of shared that analogy with them. I thought it was a great analogy. So if one of my kids are not obeying, I'll say, we have a problem here. What do you think's the problem? I don't know. And I say, I think you're trying to be mommy to mommy. You know, when I say, and I go, do you think that's the position that God put you in? No, you know, their lights go on. No. Okay, so what can we do to fix this? Oh, I'm sorry. And they apologize and blah, 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 blah. But you could just talk through it. But this whole life, you know, but kids, they want their own way. And says, I want to be independent, you know, and even, you know, my teenagers and things. So they're sitting there listening to all this too. And I said, you know what? We do want to be independent. We want you to grow up to be independent and flourish, but we are created to be interdependent on each other. God never intended us for us to be solely independent on our own without any structures of authority. We're all under some authority, a structure, and life works best. And so for them to understand that is super important, and using that an opportunity to teach that to your kids is really great. So
that's good. I am glad you touched on that. I am going to use the safety, safety, danger, danger. I love that. Oh, whoa. Okay, hold on. Just a second. Just got knocked off my little video thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now, if you have two little rambunctious boys, what do you do about them? What's the line between them being boys and them, you know, needing to control their behavior?
Okay, so I don't care if you're a boy or a girl. You need to learn to get along and be kind. And so I think it's good that kids can be rambunctious and, you know, wrestle. We're all about our boys wrestling. My boy's a jujitsu guy, you know, I mean, that's great. But fighting, girl or boy, it doesn't matter. And saying, I think a lot of parents can excuse things, oh, they're just a boy, they're just being a boy or whatever. Well, you still need to follow by the, you know, abide by the rules of conduct that are in God's word. So
I think you do a really good job separating out behavioral stuff from like the rambunctious aspect of stuff. Like them wrestling isn't hurting anything. If they start to hurt each other, if it starts to be an attitude issue, if they disobey you, or if it's inappropriate for the situation, then you'll tell the boys like, hey, stop wrestling, now's not the time, or whatever. Like, you don't just let them wrestle whenever.
Right.
You know, it has to be on their own time, or like where they aren't causing other people stress or.
Right. And if they start to fight with each other, I mean, we had a big, huge t-shirt that we would stick both of them in, and they have to walk around and do a job or wash the dishes with both of them in the t-shirt.
You duct tape us together.
Or duct tape you together, you know, something like that. But you can make something that starts off really upsetting and fighting, and then it turns into good fun. And I always wanted our kids to be able to love each other and be each other's best friends. So just try to be creative.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, date night conversation topics. What do you think about on dates or getaways?
Okay. So some ideas were, okay, so what's your most pressing need? That's a great question to always ask. What's your most pressing need right now? What are your future plans? What are some of your goals and dreams? I always want my husband to feel like he can dream. I don't want to feel like he is stuck as a ball and chain and he can't dream anymore because he has a wife that isn't, and I'm married to a dreamer.
The wife was a ball and chain. I want the husband to be one.
No, so where are the kids at? We go through our children. What are some things that you've been learning?
That's good.
That's good. What are some things that you've learned in the past? Where are we on a scale from 1 to 10 right now? And you can go through every area of, just, domestic support, respect, our sex life, whatever. Are you happy? Mm-hmm. Are you happy? That's a good question. What can I do to turn you on?
There you go.
What am I doing that's frustrating you? Mm-hmm. If there's one thing you could change, what would that be right now? Just
make sure you're in a place to receive that one before you ask it.
Yeah. That's right.
I have to make sure I'm not thinking that in the moment where I want him to say something good, because then I just melt down and he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything again.
Right. Yeah.
But those are all really good. I think something too, when you're learning and growing, there's always something to talk about, which is really fun. Yeah. So listening to different podcasts, reading different books, having different experiences together or separately is a really good, you want to bring something new to the table. You don't want your marriage to just be we have the same conversations, we do the same things. I know Elisha and I sometimes get in ruts. And so then I want to go listen to a new podcast. So I have something to talk to him about that's fun and exciting. And I don't know, just infuse new conversation.
And when you're in the Word too, I'm just finding there's always something to talk. I'm always working on something spiritually and growing in an area. And so that there's always something to talk about there. But as I spend time in the Word and then we just kind of go off in our days, a lot of times those things just don't get talked about. I'm thinking about them and they're bubbling inside me, but having time to sit down and go, so where are you reading right now? So what do you think the Lord's speaking to you on what subject or whatever? And yeah, it really gets to the heart of the deepest part of a person is what they're thinking and feeling that way. So that's good.
That's so good. This is from Lottie. I have a deep desire for our daughters to grow up to be women that love the Lord and are confident in who God made them to be and have a high standard for purity. So she has little girls, 6 and under. And she said, how could we as parents plant the seed, how to have that desire within him? What practical tips do you have on watering over the years?
So, number 1, be the woman your daughters want to be like. Mm-hmm. So, is your relationship with the Lord consistent? Is it obvious? Is it attractive? The Lord is the one that keeps them ultimately, it's not us. But do they see, I don't know, do they see you with a joyful spirit? Do they see you in situations where you're forgiving? Do they see you in situations where you're showing hospitality? Do you see all the things that you want for your children? Is that you? Are you working at becoming those things? Because they are more is caught than taught. And they can sniff out somebody who's talking and someone who isn't real very easily.
Well, I think too, when with the confidence thing, there were 8 girls in our home, 8 daughters. My mom never had a scale. didn't have a scale in her home. She's like, work out and eat well, and whatever your body weighs, it weighs. She never was belittling herself. A lot of girls have confidence issues when they grow up and they see their mom, who they think is beautiful, who they think is smart and capable, and they hear their mom talk negatively about herself. They think, well, if she's talking negatively about herself, who am I? And it starts that generational pattern of tearing yourself down. I've seen that with some of my friends. And so I just want to encourage you, like, I know it's so easy for me to like pick apart things I don't like about myself, but work on that on your own time. Don't say it out loud, because our daughters are watching that. And if we're talking about our insecurities, they're going to just think that's really normal and feed into that.
Oh, totally. Because you could just be, you know, you're trying, all the girls are trying on clothes in the dressing room. I'm trying on this. Okay, so I just had a baby, so I've got a roll of that. You know, if I could sit there and just like, oh, you know, just really downplay
the
whole thing on my body and this, and just, and I'm feeling that, you know, because I'm just like, oh, I got to get the weight up, you know. But to say that, you've got to think about, I have all these children that are watching me, and I don't want it to be a big deal for them. It's part of the process, and it's embracing it myself. And they see that, and just, you know, like, anyway.
That's good. Okay, specifically too for purity. How do you establish high standards for purity, especially in our culture where it's like, it's not even a thing anymore, hardly.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about dating. We're really big on relationships. You know, from a young age, my husband's always saying, so who's your crush, you know? And
yeah, my mom would always be like, don't talk about it.
They're just friends. Everybody's friends, and we all know that. But everybody has a little something for something. Go around the table. Oh, I think so and so kind of cute. Well, you know, and not making a big deal out of it. But I want them to have the freedom to. I had crushes in first grade, kindergarten. I get Jimmy Marsden and Tim Hedrick and Brock.
The gold tooth.
Name that, yeah, the gold tooth, Kevin Chavez. But anyway, you know, so they're going to have these little things, but I want them to have the freedom to be able to talk about things and not have to hide things, but at the same time, not blow them up and be the focus. And so we've definitely had conversations of reeling our girls in. I've just recently had one that had to go to apologize to a mother and say, you know, I had talked to the mother and said, we were talking about something, and I said, hey, I just want you to know, I want you to be open with me. If you ever see things in my children that you feel like need correction, I want to know about it. So just let me know. And she goes, well, actually, one of your girls, you know, she seems a little aggressive or whatever on my son, and blah, blah. So we went and had a talk where I'm not trying to have kids that put up a good front and look good for everybody else. I want children that I'm training. Training is not, change is not an event, it's a process. Okay, so foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. Okay, so it's okay. My kids are not going to get it all right all the time, and I don't care who's watching, but my kids are not up for display. I'm not trying to prove something to people with my children. Okay, so anyway, I was really happy for the opportunity. So we go in and we talk about it, and I said, my husband decided that she needs to go personally and apologize to this mother. And so she was just like, awkward. This is so embarrassing. But he wanted her to feel it. I want you to feel this so that it doesn't happen again. Mommy, can you please go with me? You're not a good mommy. You need to come out. No, you're doing it yourself. So she walked up to the mother and she said, I just want to thank you for bringing it to my mother's attention that I was being forward, and I apologize for that, and I'm going to change. And the mother was going to cry, and she goes, excuse me, I don't understand, like, why are you thanking me right now? And she said, I'm thanking you because I appreciate that you care enough about me to bring this to my attention. And so she came and she was like, how do you raise kids like this, or blah, blah, or whatever. But anyway, so we're talking about these things. So girls need to learn what their place is. It's their place to be just odious and, you know, but they have to be trained, right? You're gonna say something?
Oh, well, yeah, Daddy would always like bring up the verses about being an odious woman. The Bible talks a lot about being odious, brawling, loud. And it's really easy, especially when you get around boys, to like start this, like, you know, this giddy pit.
Right.
And my dad would always be like, hey, are you girls being odious?
Yeah.
It's just a strong word.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think, yeah, specifically on purity.
But we talk about, okay, so our kids don't date just to date, like, and until they're ready for intentional marriage, they just have lots of friends and big groups. We talk about modesty a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and the skirts want to get higher and higher, and the jeans tighter and tighter, and or whatever. But we just try to talk about, the way guys think, and about being modest. And just because it's cute doesn't make it right, right? There's a lot of cute sexy things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And kissing, we really encourage the kids about physical relationship, like,
Yeah, I will say it's a lot easier if you are emotionally involved in having one-on-one time with a boy, like as a girl, you don't have the opportunity, like you aren't even getting there emotionally to where you would kiss them.
Right.
Or progress further. Like you just aren't. Like I wasn't in that position until I was 19 years old and I was dating, and I was moving towards marriage with guys who were a lot older. So it's like not putting your kids in that position where they're even entertaining those thoughts or emotions that they would act on.
Are in those situations.
Yeah, like we just aren't in those. We weren't ever in those situations. It would never have been appropriate to be kissed or be kissed in any of the situations we were at. And I'm not, and why I bring up kissing is not like kissing is like the worst thing in the world, but I think it starts a pattern. And it's really easy once you've gone, once you've tapped into that sphere of physical intimacy for it to progress, then it's a fight after that. So it's just, we talked a lot about it. We read a lot in the Bible. There's so many verses about it. And we'd read a lot of Proverbs at the breakfast table. And I think those were all really good things.
Was it Proverbs 7 that was about the strange woman?
Oh yeah, Proverbs 7.
Yeah.
But the younger boys always go, oh no, Proverbs 7, Proverbs.
Yeah.
I think too, what media is allowed in your home, adultery, fornication, teenage relationships. If kids are seeing that modeled on TV or on the movies you're watching and you aren't addressing it and making a big stink out of it, like if something happened, my parents made a big deal out of it, we just get numb to it and we think it's totally normal and set those expectations for ourselves. I know a lot of my friends or people I grew up with just don't think there's anything wrong with premarital sex or doing these things. They just are kind of like, well, you start to confuse culture with what the Bible says. Like just because culture is okay with it doesn't mean God is. Right. And so I think we have to be really careful what culture we're letting into our home. I know that's gonna be a challenge for me because it's just so much more obvious. Like all the movies we watched, people were married.
Yeah. And now you want your kids to still blush in a sweet situation when a husband and wife are kissing. That's what you want. You want them to go, oh, or just, just feel like, oh, wow, I'm being let in on this, but not, I want them to still blush, and I want them to blush. It's, if you're exposed to sin or,
Yeah,
like, so I think you're right.
I don't know. I was even listening to a podcast the other day where the couple was talking about different movies they were watching with their kids, and their kids are teenagers. And I was like, we never watched movies with our parents where there was these comedies with all these sexual innuendos or whatever, ever. Not once. Because that's just it's dumbing down our taste for or our embarrassment in our innocence. And
you create appetites.
By anything.
Yeah, you create appetites for these things.
Yeah, this isn't stuff to laugh at. It's something that should be kept for your spouse.
And then I will say, I did something kind of on a practical level. With my younger kids, I did something called bloomers. And with my older girls, I called it fair maidens. And it was a time where they just got together in my room. I lit a candle and made a special treat and went through a book or had some questions or whatever. It was just a time for us to do an icebreaker, to talk about what we're doing and just girl time. And they seemed to really enjoy it and be excited about it. And so those are times of just really speaking into my girls specifically about.
I'm going to say one more thing on this too, because this isn't something that mommy and daddy actually talk to us a ton about. We were always taught that sex is for marriage, always. nowadays a lot of kids are confusing, like Christian kids or kids that grew up in these homes are confusing, as long as you don't get pregnant, then it's okay. I do not know where they are getting this. Pregnancy is not the problem. Babies are awesome. And it just is kind of shocking to me how, but this is like a really real thing in our culture. And I think that the problem, Daddy always brought this verse up. I forget what it is, but it's like, if a man has looked at a woman to lust after her in his heart, he's committed adultery. And that is what we like focused on. We focused on like our mental purity. And when you draw the line there, what is our thought life like?
Yeah.
You aren't even considering, we never talked about pregnancy because pregnancy wasn't even a thing. We weren't trying to not get pregnant. We always thought pregnancy was awesome. You're trying to not lust. That's like what the battle is the lust issue. So anyways, I just—
You set the standard up here, and that's—
Yeah, just set it really far away. It's never like,
right,
things are okay, but your virginity you want to keep. You know, it wasn't about virginity for us. It wasn't about babies. It was about, we don't want to lust after someone.
And we were really brought up a lot about books, like being careful about the input that is coming in. What are you reading? What are you exposed to?
Novels at all, zero.
No romance novels.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's a very broad topic. We have to be really careful. Elisha and I are talking about this so much too, so I get it. You have little kids, but you're already talking about it so much.
Yeah.
Okay, what are your tips for dating your husband when you live far away from family and you don't have a lot of money or even close people you trust to ask?
Number one, pray. And then you go initiate. Just like I said before, it's kind of find a family. It just takes one.
You could,
what?
Yeah, you could swap.
And then swap. If you feel comfortable with them, I'm going to watch the kids this day, but you have to be really comfortable with.
But I will say, we moved to random places and you got babysitters.
Yeah.
That we didn't know super, super, super well.
I tried to get their teenage girls. Yeah. I really would feel better about the girl coming into my house. I didn't just like, there was only one other family that I left my kids, and actually her husband was gone all the time working, so it was usually her.
Yeah.
But yeah, have the teenage girl come over and watch our kids. So
come to your house. How do you take stress and how do you have time to care for yourself? I only have one baby and I'm already exhausted, and I can't imagine having to raise 11 children. I'm stressed and tired from around 4 o'clock, and I live in a small apartment, so I can't really do morning time because it will wake everyone up. At nighttime, I'm too tired to do anything. Any tips?
Okay, first of all, you're going to hear me say this all the time. I really prioritize my health. I take Neolife supplements. They have been a game changer for me. If you want to know about those, you can talk to Katie about that. But it's been a game changer. My sleep, you have to discipline yourself to go to bed at night so that you have energy. It's a big temptation to want to stay up at night because the house is quiet, nobody needs you, kids are napping, you can do XYZ. But I have to force myself to get into bed. My time is, I want to be in my room at 10, I want to be lights out 10:20, 10:30. That's my peg every night, and I have to discipline myself to do that because I don't really want to do that. But it's a priority, and you're either going to have the pain of discipline or you're going to have the pain of regret. So I will choose the discipline all day long, because the pain of regret is you're just regretting all day. I'm exhausted. Why did I stay up? Blah, blah, blah. So it could be, I might be stressed. Number one, I might need to recruit help. Okay, so it sounds like you have one child. So it's funny because when Katie had her third baby, you know, when you have one baby, you're just like, oh my goodness, how many, I remember crying when my mother left, like,
it is so stressful. Your first,
how am I gonna do this? Yeah, and then when she had her third, I was taking the toddlers and she was home with the infant, like, thank you so much. All I have is one. Like, it's so funny how you change your mindset.
How it works.
Yeah, and you definitely learn mothering better. But I might need to simplify and cut things out. I might need to lower my expectations for the day. I
think lifestyle has a lot to do with it. I think Jen is a professional violinist. But if you are working, if you're going to school, if you, you know, live in a small apartment, if your husband's and your schedules don't line up, if you have no one to help, like lifestyle, you have, like mama made decisions based on the lifestyle she wanted. And you're going to have to do the same thing when it comes down to paring things out of your life that are not supporting the lifestyle you want, or being okay with the stresses that your lifestyle brings. Sometimes we can't have everything in life all the time, or there's going to be a breakdown somewhere. So it really can be hard to cut out certain things out of your life. But that might be either you need to add help in or cut something out, probably, if you just cannot do the cycle, because you want to enjoy the life that you're living and you want to be able to thrive in that. And I will say this too, just on the like one kid thing, when I had two, it got a lot easier. Not at the very beginning. It was really stressful when they're little, but Leon and Lucy play all the time together now. They don't demand as much from me at all. So that's something to keep in mind. It can actually get easier. It's a possibility. But what were you going to say, Mama?
And then taking time for yourself. These are just little habits. I know Katie's been talking, you are what you repeatedly do. Like, and so I made these little habits in my life. Like, okay, I want to be dressed when I go to breakfast. That's not 100% of the time, but for the majority, I really try to get myself put together, get my makeup on before I get to the table, because I just feel better. I try to exercise 4 to 5 days a week, but these are little habits. And I wouldn't encourage you just to get a whole bunch of habits going. Just take one habit. Take something very simple. I remember, Katie, you started out with 2 gulps of water or something. That was like to get going on drinking water every day. So just take one little thing. And if you are really serious about changing something, I got this from the Compound Effect book, you tally it. I've often have a running tally going on my refrigerator about something. So right now I'm tracking my sleep. I really want to get better at sleep. So I'm writing down every night, what time am I going to bed and what time am I getting up? And the other thing I'm tallying right now is drinking juice drinks. So you set up your environment to support what you want to change. So, you know, on my dream board, I said, oh, I want to drink more juice drinks. Well, I wasn't doing, the first month went by, I didn't drink one juice drink. Like, I started reading the book, Willpower Won't Work. I only got to the first chapter, but all it says, make your environment support what you want to change. That's all I needed from the book. Okay, so I'm going to put my juicer here. I'm going to the store, I'm buying the carrots, blah, 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 blah. And then I started juicing. Now all of my kids are juicing. We are all juicing and loving it. And so I'm developing a new habit in my life. And so I'm at 53 years old now, but I've been at it for a long time, creating just a new habit. What am I going to really focus on this year? Okay, that's going to be a new habit. A habit means something that you like automatically do, you know? So
good. I'm thinking too, like, there needs to be a time when you can get some time by yourself throughout the day if you want to sustain energy and happiness long term. So you're saying if you can't get up in the morning, if you can't do it at night, if you're gone at work during the day, you know, if you can't have that time during their nap time, like you've got to find a time where you can have some quiet time to yourself.
Absolutely.
Chill. Like, life's not sustainable when you're doing that. Something's gonna burn out. So I just really encourage you to like talk with your husband, just try to figure out where that time is. Because it's a blessing. Okay, how do you deal with being judged by others, and how did you overcome that to be able to openly share about your faith and what you believe?
So I just realized that I'm going to be different. The Bible says we're a peculiar people. It also says, I think in Luke 14, it says, woe to you when all men speak well of you. If everybody just thinks you're great, if you don't ruffle any feathers or, you know, in some way, we need to be salt and light. And if we are living in our culture, we're not going to be adapting. People should be able to look at us and just go, what is different about her? And being okay with that. And that's what I have tried to teach my kids as well. Like, hey, get used to it. You're a peculiar person. This is not your home. You're just passing through, and life is going to be full of opportunities where you don't fit in. You're going to be the different one. But it goes back to your identity in Christ, when you're so secure about who you are and what God thinks about you, I can't help but share it with people. You know, people are just like, oh, I love your energy, or why do you do this? That's kind of weird. Or, but it says to not be ashamed of the gospel of Christ. I would say it's the Lord that you're seeing in me. And and hopefully if they're interested, they come back, well, what do you mean? And I get to talk to them more about that. If they're not interested, they shut you down. It's okay. I don't take that personally. I just say, you know, not everybody loved Christ. Look what they did to him. But
Yeah.
he was faithful to what the Lord called him to do and say. And if the Lord is prompting your heart, you will never become all that God created you to be if you don't obey his voice. And if he's wanting you to say something, you need to say it. Because as you walk in obedience, he gives you more assignments and you walk closer with him, you understand him more. But if we're constantly quenching the Holy Spirit, just like, oh, we become a people pleaser. It's all about pleasing everybody else. My audience, I have one person, and he's my audience, and that's Christ. And I want to live my life sold out for him. And when you make that place and that decision of lordship in your life and complete surrender, you're going to find yourself not being ashamed of the gospel.
Well, I can see it's really easy. I can speak from experience. When we aren't in the word, we don't really fear God. It's hard to have that fear of God. And the fear of people is way bigger because we're spending most of our time in that sphere. So it's really hard. The next question is, if we aren't in the word. And the next question is, how do you maintain being in the word? Mommy, if we could just buzz through this one real quick.
Yes. What was the question again about being in the word?
How do you maintain being in the word? Yeah.
Okay. It's like my lifeline. I have a real high metabolism. I don't survive very long without food. Katie's the same way. We have to have food. And so my time in the word and being with the Lord is such a part of my life now that I do not do well unless I'm in the word. It is an absolute requirement for my sustainability of life. And I have found so much joy in that. And if you don't have a love for the word, I didn't. I had to ask the Lord, would you give me a love for your word? I don't even want to open it up. I know there's so many big words. I don't understand what's in there. Could you just speak to me? Just ask him, Lord, give me a love for your word. Open up my eyes and speak to me specifically about what you want to talk to me about. And every morning, I don't know what I'm going to learn, but I just open it up and I have learned through experience, the Lord shows up. And even if it's one little phrase, journal it, write it down. Lord, I feel like maybe you're saying this to me, or I learn out something new about what he thinks about me. I can't even believe it. I'm in awe. I'm overwhelmed. I just can't believe it. And I can't even take any more in because I have to just revel in what I just read, you know? And so
also encourage me to, even like from an accountability piece, his mom would always come to the breakfast table and she'd do a little devotional at the breakfast table, and she wanted to have something fresh to share there. And I think she would always encourage us at the table. Sometimes she'd ask us as kids questions like, what did you learn in your Bible time today? And I think it kind of encouraged that, like, oh, well, you know, I have the same thing that I read like 5 days ago, you know? And I think sometimes as women, if we don't initially have that desire, I think the more we're in God's word, the more we have that desire. But if we don't, challenge yourself. And this is actually what I'm going to do, just listening to you, is to come to the breakfast table and share something with my kids every day from what I learned. And it's
great
kind
accountability.
of a tally, like Mom was talking about earlier. It's telling, you'll start noticing when you're in the word and when you're not in the word. And I think the more we're marinating in it, the more we want it. Yeah.
And if you have a time, a place, and a plan, I have a little and a bag. So if you're like having to search for your stuff and whatever, just have a specific place. You know, I shared this before. One was a little janitor's closet when I was at college. I just needed a place that I could get. I mean, I've been in a lady's house. She had an apartment with all of her kids, and she had no place to go. And she made this, like, underneath the stairwell, she put a curtain there. She put a little pillow in there with her light, and that was her place. So find a spot. It could be in your car, but time, have a specific time, a place, and a plan. work through there's great devotionals. Priscilla Shires are all super great, you know.
That's good. Thank you, Mama. I love that. Time, place, and plan. Taking notes over here, you guys. Okay. Any tips for teething babies, especially during the night?
I always used Orajel on their teeth, and then I would put lavender under their nose to kind of trick them. Like they all of a sudden start sniffing, and of course that's a calming thing for them. As far as the teething, I would freeze washcloths and let them chew on that during the day. And then toothbrushes, letting them chew on toothbrushes. That's
Louis
great.
loves toothbrushes right now.
And then teething tablets. That's about it.
I've never tried that. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, how do you raise siblings who are best friends even in the toddler years?
So you just have them play with each other a lot, work together. Shared experiences are what bring you close together. And so when kids are going off, they go to soccer, they go to a different school, they have their different friends, and they go to this Sunday school class and you go to that, then it just pieces everything out, and you've got fragments everywhere. And so we just try to put our kids all together in whole family situations. And
we did a lot of sports as a family.
Yeah.
And you get fights in the toddler years. Like, you just really do. They're going to fight over the same toy. My kids are in the toddler years, but they also love hanging out together because they're together all day. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard. They're going to go in and out. And like, ultimately, long-term friendship is like talking through issues and like not letting bitterness and resentment build up. It's not that those things don't happen. You know, I've had knockdown, drag out fights with every single one of my siblings. We have been so angry and so hurt. Any long-term relationship, it's just like marriage. You have to work through it. And I think my parents really force, like, we don't harbor resentment. We don't harbor bitterness. We talk through it.
It's not an option.
And it teaches you life skills for friendships long-term, for working through stuff with your parents as an adult, and for working through stuff in your marriage. But like, fights are going to happen with siblings. It doesn't mean they can't be good friends.
And I always try to let them know that Satan is wanting to cause division in the family. He wants to put you at odds with each other. He wants us, parent and children, he wants to cause division, and we're just not going to let him have that in our house. So we're going to deal with it. So.
That's good. Okay, how do you handle cousins and friends with little children? So I can relate to this. I think Mama can too. I think I have like 80 cousins on both sides of the family. My kids are growing up with a lot of cousins. How do you handle those relationships? She's saying that she likes that the kids all play together. You know, that's fun. But then she doesn't like the behavioral habits her 3-year-old picks up. Okay,
so you just have to be careful. I limit exposure with kids that I don't want my kids to be around all that much. And my object is to have their lives so full of things that they are developing inside classes, or, I want them engaged at home, and things that they're so involved, they just don't have time to, you can create your own environment. You don't have to be a victim of everybody else.
Because I know that this happened with me too. And someone's rubbing off on me. I know several of my girl cousins would rub off on me in a way that you and Daddy didn't like, or maybe they were exposed to things I wasn't exposed to. So I was homeschooled. Right. I was really sheltered. Yeah. We would have all these conversations where I was like, what are they even talking about? What did you do in those instances?
I just limited exposure and made your life full and inconvenient to get together. Yeah. So I controlled that, and I just said, it's not going to work out at this time. So because somebody wants you, and I'm just very protective and a guard dog, because I know that bad company corrupts good morals, and it rubs off who your children are around. And I did that a lot of times with different friends. Yeah. Or cousins.
I mean, just because they're family doesn't mean that.
Right. Oh, for sure.
I mean, I think that's kind of hard though, because it's like you do have family reunions, you do have, I'm thinking of our kids, and it's like you are just around the cousins a lot.
Yeah. And I've gone and talked to the parents, and I'm just like, hey, I just want to bring in awareness here, and I would want you to do the same for me, for sure. Come talk to me. And I'll just bring up, well, I heard your son or daughter saying this, and these aren't really words that I want my kids to use. So I want him to be more careful. Hi,
Do you see Mama Nisi?
Leon. Yeah. Hi,
Leon just woke up. He's got a
honey.
big skin here.
So cute.
That's really good. I think, yeah, that's a challenge. Okay, let's see here real quick. Okay, how do you know that you're doing, okay, we have 3 more here. How do you know that you're doing, what you're doing for your kid is enough? Meaning people say fill their cup first, but how do you know when their cup is filled? So you can go wash dishes, etc., for a couple of minutes and they won't cry.
I thought it was kind of interesting that whoever wrote this was like, how do you know when their cup is full so you can go wash the dishes? You know, like, hey, pull the kids with you to wash the dishes, you know? But
I do
know. Yeah.
From a practical, like very practical standpoint, if I have intentional time, not with my phone, I think sometimes we think we're with our kids when we're on our phones, and our kids, we are not. And so if I spend 30 minutes in the morning actively, like phone's nowhere around, it's in a drawer, I'm engaged with the kids, then I can just kind of like trickle off, you know, go in the kitchen, do what I want, do these different things. As long as I'm not on electronics, my kids will just kind of play around me.
Yes.
They don't really
And
know.
I will say this, as you build skills into your kids, teach them how to build cool things with your blocks. Do it with them. Teach them how to hold a pencil so they can start to color by, because they're going to want to start to do things by themselves. You're building capability into your kids so that they can be independent and entertain themselves. But you have to kind of get the ball rolling for them, even like writing or with music, riding a bike, learning to play games, taking care of an animal. Like these are all things you just need to build into them so that they gain other interests and so that they feel like, oh, I know how to do this. And then they'll just keep themselves busy for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I like how you said that you have to build capabilities into them. It's not like a kid's born knowing how to play with like,
yeah,
or self-entertain. Process, and you have to teach that process. And if you can, like if it's housework and stuff, I love engaging the kids in housework because that is like the most, I don't know, it can be pretty fun and chill to do. But I do know, like if you're trying to cook dinner or something like that, it's like, I just need to focus on this, you know? So
yeah, I'll usually bring out the Legos and set them right in front of me while I'm cooking dinner and, you know, let them work on that, or I don't know.
Yeah, so I think what this person means, maybe when someone says fill their cup first, it means engage with your child.
Yes.
Let them know that you're there, and then teach them some capabilities so that you aren't always there. And I think this starts at like an infant stage. Your infant not always seeing you. I know some women love to be attached to their babies all the time, but like Louis, for instance, he'll crawl over and play, and I'll just be in the kitchen making dinner. He does not need to see me. He doesn't know if I'm in the room, outside of the room. And I think it starts at a really young age, them just learning that it's okay to play without mommy.
Yeah.
Too. Okay, tips for putting littles in the same room. I want to transition them to the same room in case we have another baby. We have a 3-bedroom house, but I don't want to mess up their sleep either.
Okay, well, it'll mess up for a little bit probably, but it's just a training issue like most things. And I used to sing a song every night before I went to bed. Do you remember the song, Katie?
Oh, what was it?
The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases.
I didn't know if it was going to be something that was younger than what I remembered. But
yeah. So I would sing the kids a song, and then when I turned out the lights, you can turn a fan on because it's nice to have white noise when you have more than one child in the room. But the goal was when I turn off the lights, and I turn off the lights first, sing the song. When mommy closes the door, there's no more talking. And so when they were real little, that's what we did. When they were a little bit older, I kind of enjoyed that they were talking with each other and having some fun time.
These two from not talking. Like they're little and they just yak it up. Like we have been consistent with discipline and it just has not worked. So like Leon and Lucy, they go to bed probably an hour after we put them in there. Because they just sit in their beds and they just talk. And I just say, you can't turn on the light and you can't come out of your room. Yeah. And that's been the only thing we've been able to like maintain.
And usually when I'm sharing a room starting out, the younger one I will put together down first And then an hour later, I'll bring the other child in and just be like, we need to be all quiet because she's asleep, blah, blah, blah.
That's a good idea.
So they get used to being with each other and kind of you work them into it a little bit.
That's good. Okay. Tips for homeschooling the older kids with toddlers, babies at home too, and tips for homeschooling when baby comes and early postpartum.
Okay, so if you have older children, I used to pay the girls $1 a day to take the younger ones and teach them their sounds. Okay, do you remember doing that? Yeah, her first job. Go take them for 30 minutes. It's really great when you have multiple children because each one takes them for like a half hour and does something fun with them. Or so they're all kind of rotating school and okay, now I need a break. And that person has a fresh child to play with. And so the more kids you have, actually the easier it gets. I don't know how to say it any clearer than that, but at a certain point. But I would give them game ideas to do or have them go in the other room. I always did reading while the kids were napping. It's really hard for a child to read when babies are screaming, things are fighting, and stuff is going on. So really tried to have it quiet. And then I just hold the babies on my lap. I put a blanket down there and I just put some toys and let them play. Sometimes the older kids, I've gotten the headphones and the kids will put their headphones on while they do their school. So it's a quieter house for them. Some of my kids did their math better listening to classical music. So I would allow that for certain kids. So I would put a child in a high chair with Cheerios on my lap, turn on the sink with just dribbling water. And I usually do my homeschooling at the kitchen table. So I have my eye on them, but they can play for hours in the water,
Yes.
a few cups and things. Lincoln logs, Legos, blocks, race cars. Sometimes I put the baby in the backpack on my back and, whatever. No pianos while homeschool is going on. No piano practicing. I always try that to get that somewhere else. But for early postpartum, just like Kyla, I usually go to my child's house and we'll stay there for a week. Let them rest. It's super important that you rest the first week and so that you can heal. And it's so fun being with Kyla right now because I don't know, I just assume that my kids know things, but I'm teaching all along the way. I don't realize how much I know. Oh no, you do this. And have you ever thought about this? They're like, oh, thank you. And so it's really great to be here. We all do better on a schedule. And so as soon as I can get life back to routine, it's actually a lot easier because the kids are busy doing seat work and things just operate when things are just free for all. It can be.
The second week, we would only have a week of free for all with you. And then you just get us back on a schedule. Cause school was something that engaged us. And so we were actually a lot less all over the map. Yeah.
And then we had a mandatory quiet hour in our house from 1 to 3 every day. So they had to be out.
It was 2 hours.
Yeah. And then lower your expectations. Just lower them way low. Just try to accomplish one thing for the day. Besides, getting food on and taking care of kids.
Oh, wow. Did you make me a piece of toast?
That's mine.
Oh, it's yours.
Oh, I see how you are.
Look at this chunk of butter. We've got some good lard on that thing.
Yummy.
Leon loves himself toast. Okay, I don't know how this handoff's gonna go. Awesome.
Well, it's been great being with you guys. I think that's our last question, but I just wanted to wrap it up with just a couple of words.
Yeah.
Delight in your children. Help them. Let them see how much you enjoy them and how much you love them. Have fun. Turn off your phone. Build your life. Prioritize you. Keep the big picture. Keep the big picture in mind. Those appetites that you're developing down here are just only going to get stronger as you go. And be who you want your children to become. Don't be afraid to go against the flow and be different. Keep learning and keep growing. Watch your inputs. Guard your heart. And have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on Mommy. You know
Yes.
what? I forgot. A gal texted me a question real quick about a mother-in-law and just how you interact with a mother-in-law that you don't really click with. And I just would love to have just a second. Could you give some tips for someone who's maybe having a hard time with their mother-in-law? Really quiet, real quick.
Pray. That's the first thing.
Yes.
And try to see your mother-in-law through the eyes of the way the Lord pictures them. You know, they might be annoying because they're insecure. They might be, they don't, they need love. And so you be the person. Take it upon yourself. Reach out and love them, win them over. And whether it's through, listen to what they appreciate and like, and go do that. Love always wins. Love initiates. And so you be the initiator. Don't be all about you and like, oh, they hurt don't take things personally. When you're grounded, you know you're secure in Christ, you're secure in who you are. You're not going to be ruffled by somebody who's got, rough edges. And put your arms around them and love them and just initiate.
That's
what
good.
I say. Be proactive in loving them and you will win them over.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Mommy. I love you so much. Thanks for taking time to do this, and thanks for those questions.
You're welcome.
Want to say hi to Mama Nisi real quick? Lucy's been making
I wish I could show you the baby.
I know. I'm going to call back later this afternoon or in a FaceTime time.
Okay. I love you.
Okay, bye. Love you so much. Bye.